So this is a real quick little tip, I guess, when you're doing one of these things, when you're wiring a board. It's a little thing, but it makes life a whole lot better when you're like me. So here's a super short little tip. Some of you probably already do this, but when you go to work on your 3D printer, when you go to pull a plug, like the stepper driver's in the way and I end up yanking on the wires. Now you can get in here with like needle nose pliers if you got some super fine ones and get a hold of it and pull it out, which works. I mean, that works fine, but it's kind of a pain and you gotta really get in there. Here's the trick. It's called shrink tube. Now, this is going to sound funny, but I'm actually going to shrink tube the plug, as you can see here. Now, it allows me to do two things. One, it allows me to mark it. It also allows me to plug and unplug the plug without yanking on the wires. Now, I still think you're actually yanking on the wires a little bit, but nowhere near as much. And if you have these metallic permanent markers, if you have a metallic one, you can mark it. So in this case, that is my extruder motor. So I can put an E on there. And the cool thing is when you shrink it, the marker shrinks with it, so it actually becomes more bold. Now you do have to be careful because the permanent marker will smudge. You really have to let it dry before you can shrink it. There is a little sneaky tricks I do. The thing about it is you want to get the tightest one you can that will fit over it. You might have to fight a little, but you gotta get it to fit over the lip. But you want it to catch that lip. So it needs to be just fitting. And you want it to go over and be able to pop past. But you want to catch that lip. Now here's the other thing. When you shrink it, it shrinks and likes to pull back over that lip. So you got to leave enough that the plug can still plug in, but you got to get a hold of that lip. Now if I just shrink this, it'll shrink down and come off that lip. So what I do is take those same needle nose pliers and I make sure I'm where I want to be. And this is kind of the weird part. If you leave it too long, it'll stop it from plugging in, and if you leave it too short, it'll pop over that lip in the actual plug and it'll miss. And I found if I squeeze it a little bit, I can feel the lip, and then I can squeeze back and I can feel how much is passed, and that should be about right. And what I do is I just hold it on the lip, and that's usually enough. Not always. And then shrink it down. And it slipped past. See, and that's what you got to be careful of. It slipped past, so it's basically useless. So we'll try it again. I normally don't get it to slip past. The camera in my way is making it hard. I've gotten pretty good at doing this. The good thing is I got plenty of it. You can just snip it off and try again. It does take a little practice. You basically want it about 3/4 of an inch long, thereabouts, because when it shrinks it condenses the markings, so they end up a little bolder, if that makes sense, especially with these metallics. And let's try that again now. Part of why it slipped by is because, you know, it's at an angle, so you're only clipping the edge. And you have like channel locks, you can make it grab better. which is what I should have used. And then you just set your channel locks to the right size, which is about right there. And you can get a nice grip on it. And you basically have to go a little beyond and then come back and make sure it's on there nice and kind of square. It's kind of a pain, but I found in the long run I'd rather do this than end up pulling a wire out. And that's not beyond enough. And again, it's not the easiest thing in the world to do, but it certainly isn't the hardest. And there you have it. If it works right, you get a nice wrap around that lip, and everything should hold. You want it to just catch that lip. That might even be a little too short right there. I don't know if you can see it. I don't know how good this camera's picking it up, but and there you have it. Now you have a pull tab. So if you start yanking on it, I mean, it still pulls on these wires, don't get me wrong. This has some flex, but it will pull it out of the socket generally before it yanks the wires out. And it makes it less likely to, just makes it less likely to pull the wire out. And there you have it. If you do that, not only that, it marks it. It gives you a marker so you know what plug it is. And gives you a pull tab. So you're less likely to yank your wires out of your plug. Pretty cool. Enjoy.